Welcome, everyone, to another uh, Chef Carole series from Plant Powered Metro New York. So my name is Wendy Sachs, and I'm a member of the board of Plant Powered Metro New York, and couldn't be prouder of this particular series, although there's a lot of classes that we offer. Plant Powered Metro New York is a community-based organization committed to our collective health empowerment through whole food, plant-based nutrition, which is an evidence-based approach to nutrition that can prevent, treat, and even reverse chronic illness. We've been offering a wide range of courses since March, and of course, always prefer to meet people in person, but given COVID times, it's really wonderful that we get to offer these online. And programs like this have been a really great way to share our message and also create a library of useful resources. So without further ado, I want to introduce my dear friend and very exquisite chef, Chef Carole. What's on the menu today?
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Lynn, and welcome to my kitchen here in Manhattan. This is our last demo of the summer for me, and we take a little bit of a hiatus from me, and we'll be back in September. But today, I promised all of you desserts, because lots of you asked, how do we make desserts? So we're going to make 3 things today, and we have to kind of go through them, rather quickly. But I want to tell you that we're going to make brownies. Which is a Chef AJ recipe. We're going to make a polenta and peach blueberry cobbler. I'm not a cobbler. We're actually going to make a cake, actually. I see the recipe says cobbler, but it's actually a cake. I see a note there that that's not right, but it's a cake, technically. And then we're also going to make a chocolate mousse. And a lot of you hear what I say over and over again is that the recipes are usually a guide, and I let you all substitute ingredients. But when you're baking, you actually pretty much want to follow the list of ingredients. Yes, sometimes you can make substitutions because with sugar, salt, oil-free desserts, we're already making substitutions for butter and oil. So there are other things that you can sometimes substitute, but the measurements really have to stick to as accurate as possible when you're baking. So let's just get started, and we're going to make a peach blueberry polenta cake. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we have a lot of ingredients that are already measured out, and the very first thing that I have is I have 3/4 cup of polenta. Okay, and polenta is similar to cornmeal, and if you didn't have polenta, you probably could use cornmeal, but it's a coarser ground, and I'm going to put that into the bowl. That's 3/4 of a cup. Okay. The other thing that the next dry ingredient that I have is almond flour, and almond flour is basically ground almonds, and I particularly like to buy the kind that are blanched almonds, and then they grind it so that you don't end up, there's a almond flour that you can buy that has like little brown dots. That means they haven't peeled the almonds. But I like buying what is called the white fine ground almond meal. So this right here is going to be, it's a 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons. Okay, so that's going into the bowl here. And those are our 2 main ingredients. And I like just giving them a stir. And what happens a lot with the almond meal is you get a lot of little balls that like to kind of get together. And then we're going to immediately start adding the rest of the ingredients, okay? So the other dry ingredients is we need 3/4 teaspoon of soda and 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, okay? And and what I did mention was that I preheated the oven. So before I ever start anything that has to go into the oven, before I even start mixing things, I get the oven preheated. And we preheated the oven to 350 degrees. And then I've also prepared a pan. That's the second thing that you would do after you preheat the oven is whatever pan you're using, you'll get ready to get that set up so that you're already ready. This is what you call a springform pan. They come in a lot of different kinds of sizes. It has actually a spring right here, And let me just show you what's such a good thing about this pan is that the ring, so when the cake is done, you actually loosen the ring and you actually have a nice plate to serve it on. And what I've done is we're not greasing any pan here at all. We don't need to grease the pan, but we do need to have a piece of parchment at the bottom, not on the sides. So all I've done is I've taken this parchment paper here, a piece of parchment paper from here, right here, hold it out, trace the bottom of the circle, and cut a circle. And that is going to be our thing that, so nothing gets stuck to the bottom, okay? Now, if you didn't have a springform pan, you certainly could use an 8-inch cake pan. You could use a pie pan, actually, to use this in. But whatever pan you use, I would definitely cut a piece of parchment. It's just that what's easy is this lift away. So we're going to keep this pan over here. And we're going to measure our soda and our baking powder. And we actually need 3/4 of a teaspoon of each. So I have a 1/4 teaspoon here. And when I'm measuring, I kind of make little piles. So this is 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's that. And then we need the soda, okay? And 1, 2, 3, okay? That takes care of that. And I get that all mixed in, okay? That's pretty much our dry ingredients, okay? That is done, and we're just going to set that aside. In the meantime now, we're going to work on our, what I call the wet ingredients, okay? And we need 6 tablespoons of plant-based yogurt, okay? And that can be cashew yogurt, that can be almond yogurt. I wrote on the recipe that I really like this brand called Forager, but the store didn't have that brand today. So I bought another brand, which is called Kite Hill. Okay, can you see that? And it's just plain almond milk yogurt. The one that I like so much is a cashew milk yogurt. But we need this whole thing, basically. It is 6 tablespoons in here, so I'm not going to measure it out because I measured it out half a dozen times, and I know that there are 6 tablespoons in here. So I'm just going to just put the whole, take out the whole thing, and that's goes in the bowl. That's the beginning of our wet ingredients. Okay, so we get rid of that over here. Now the other thing we need is we need to have 1 teaspoon of almond extract, and I like the almond extract because it goes with the polenta. It kind of makes it taste a little bit Italian. Actually, the two go really well together. If you don't have almond extract, this is a place where you could easily use vanilla. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I just prefer the almond extract. Okay, so I'm going to put a teaspoon of almond extract in there like that. Okay, and then it says that we need zest of a orange or a lemon, and I do have a lemon here, and we are going to use the Microplaner, which I believe I've showed all of you if you've been coming for numerous times to the demos. A Microplaner is just, this one is for citrus. I washed this very well, and we're going to just take off the top layer, and we're going to keep turning this. And you want to be very careful with the Microplaner. It is a very sharp, and you see, I just want you to see that I'm not going past the top layer of the lemon. And this is really where you get all your flavor. Even if you are not baking and you are cooking without salt, this is really the citrus of the, whether it's an orange, a lemon, a lime, this is really where your flavor is really coming from. And you want to get as much off of it as you can. It looks like I have almost a tablespoon, and again, really careful. I try never to use a lemon without zesting it because it's kind of like an ingredient that I often will just put it in the refrigerator, just in a container if I'm cutting open a lemon. And sometimes I put it on the oatmeal in the morning. And like you shake it all off and you make a little bit of noise, but that eventually just also gets washed, but that will just go right over here. And we don't need that lemon anymore. Okay, so we're gonna mix that up a little bit here. And then we need 6 tablespoons of aquafaba, and we need our sugar, right? We need to sweeten this cake. And I have date paste. And I have showed all of you date paste, but in case you can either look up how to make date paste, or I'll just tell you, which is you take neglet dates. I prefer the medjool dates because they're very soft. You pit the dates, and you take off the little top that's like where the stem is. It's a little brown piece. I'll show that to you later when I have dates in front of me. And you put them in a bowl and you cover them with water, and they just get soft. And then you want to put those dates into a Cuisinart or a blender or a Vitamix, anything, and you just need to pulverize them. And you use just a little bit of the water that has been soaking, and you pulverize the dates, and you end up with a nice sauce just like this, okay? And I keep a jar of this in my refrigerator all the time because I often need some kind of sweetener. Even if I'm making spaghetti or an Indian dish and it calls for something sweet, I use the date paste. So we need to have a half a cup of that, and I'm going to, all my half cups are also already tied up here, so we're just going to use 2 1/4 cups here. Okay, so we're gonna get that in the bowl with the wet ingredients. Okay, and that is our wet ingredients. That is our dates. We've used everything. And I've double checked that we've used everything on our list. And this goes away. And this also goes away. And I'd like to get this all mixed together, okay, really well, like this. We still have to make our aquafaba, okay? But let's just get these 2 things combined, and then we'll make the part that makes our cake kind of whipped and with what would be technically an egg white, okay? Get all this out. I'm a stickler here on getting the bowl clean and everything out. So it's all ingredients. You want to get the bowl entirely clean. I don't like anyone who leaves a little bit left over. So that is good. And we get this. This is not good for me. This is good for cooking. And we're going to use a big spatula. We're going to use a big spatula here. And we're just going to get this all combined. Okay, and it's going to be like a little bit of a paste. You're going to say, how could that be the cake? It's going to be really, really, really dry. But we still have to make our aquafaba. Okay? And we're going to, I was going to make a big batch of aquafaba for you, but I think we're going to do it in 2 batches, actually. Because, well, it doesn't actually matter. But, okay, so that's the way things look right now. You see, it's really stiff and a little bit like a cement, you know, like it's hard as a rock, okay, like that. Now we're going to make our aquafaba, okay, and I'm going to use my KitchenAid, which is with a big whisk here. And if you didn't have a KitchenAid or a bowl that has a hand mixer, I don't know if any of you might have an immersion blender, and often these immersion blenders come with a whisk attachment. So you just need some kind of whisk to make your egg whites. Now, aquafaba is here on the counter, okay, right here, and that comes, this is the juice from the chickpeas, okay? You could use juice from the cannelli beans. I probably wouldn't use black bean juice because it's black, but this juice is just drained, 1 can of drained chickpeas, okay? And we're gonna put this in here. We only technically, for this particular recipe, we only need 6 tablespoons. So I'm just actually gonna measure. This is an older jar of mine. I'm all the time having this in the refrigerator. And we need 6 tablespoons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we need 6, okay? And we're gonna use this other aquafaba later for the second dessert. And we're just going to beat this, and we're going to, just a second, turn this on. And we're going to lift it up. just going to take a few minutes. It is noisy. In the meantime, while that's whisking, we're getting our pieces together. Kind of make sure that you can see. We're going to get the pieces. So I'm going to wait. We're just going to wait. You know what? I'm going to do it all the way.
Carol, I'm going to interrupt you. We can't hear you when the machine is on.
Pardon?
We cannot hear what you're
I
saying.
understand. I understand. I'm sorry, but this does take a few minutes and it will almost be done and I will show it to you in a minute. One minute. 1 minute. This is very important. I just want to show you. Yes. I just want to show you that this is what this is looking like. Okay. And when my grandmother used to whip up egg whites, I was always amazed because she would turn the bowl entirely upside down, and I'd be like, as a child, like, oh my God, the egg whites are gonna fall out. But we're almost there, and I just want you to give me 1 more minute. You can use I know that I mentioned using the water from the canned beans, but you can absolutely make your own chickpeas and save that same water. You just want this a very few more minutes. Now, you might ask, can you over whip them? And you actually can over whip them. But you can see right now that they are like this. Let me get this off. Okay, you can see. Can you see? And it is really like an egg white. And we are going to use this for the cake as well as for our chocolate mousse, okay? And this is, we only needed 6 tablespoons. So I'm actually going to kind of estimate how much we need now. And I think it's because I've made this cake numerous times. I think it's about 1.5 cups of whipped. Again, if we had it was so noisy that I thought I would make it all at one time for us. So we're just going to right now. And I added, in the recipe that you all have for the chocolate mousse, I actually, that's a Dr. Furman recipe, and he adds a little bit of crema tartar, just a little bit, like a quarter teaspoon to 1 can of liquid of the beans. And the cream of tartar actually acts as a stabilizer. So I don't have that in this cake. When I made the recipe, I didn't feel that we needed that, but I put a little bit of cream of tartar, and that just helps to stabilize these whites, okay? So we're gonna leave those over here for now, because we're gonna use those same exact whites. And I actually think we need probably another half and a half. That's what I was doing. I was trying to measure, and I'm just knowing, again, we only needed 6 tablespoons, which was very little, but I did want to have that sound on the demo for being obnoxious for very long. So now we're just going to fold this into the cake, okay? And this is going to make the cake very light, and you want to get it all incorporated, okay? But you also don't want to deflate it. So you don't want to mix it like really hard. You want to fold it in. And often when you're doing this for a cake, you actually pull out a little bit of the batter and you start folding it into the whites. But for time's sake, we're just going to get this done here like this. So now the batter, which felt really heavy and really dense, is very, very light. Okay, now this cake batter, the cake is not going to be a high cake. It's going to be like a little thin cake with fruit on the top. And when it unmolds from the springform pan, it will look like more like a tart with fruit all on the top. So I have my pan here, and we want to make sure that everything's incorporated. No aquafaba is just sticking out. Okay, again, cleaning out the bowl as best we can. And then we're going to get this spread out evenly into the pan. And this should be done just when we're finishing. I don't think we're going to be able to unmold it, possibly, because it does take a little bit of time to cook. But let's just get this in the pan. Now, while we were on a little bit of a noise break there, I had 2 peaches, which I washed, and I washed the peaches, and I cut them in half, took their pits out, and I sliced the peaches. Okay, and I'm going to try to do this right as close as possible to you. Okay, and I have these sliced peaches, and I'm just going to make a decorative top. Okay, and I'm just going to start by putting these peaches down. I'm not going to really press them in so much. I see that I haven't, and the peaches still have their skin on them, and I don't mind that actually. Sometimes when you're a baker, actually you do take the skin off a peach by putting it in boiling water. And I'm doing this a little far away from myself, but I'm trying to get this going here. And we're just going to go around in circles. Now, you could do this with any fruit. So this cake could be a fall cake that you put pears onto. This cake could have apples on top of it. But I would always make sure the slicing is very thin. It's, I would say, about 1/8 of an inch of the peaches. And you're just decorating the top, okay? And you're overlapping everything, okay? And we are going to get this in the oven, and we'll be on to the next dessert. Let's just, I think I cut too many peaches, but that's okay. Sometimes they're small, and just getting that last peach in there. Oh, and I try to get this one overlapping because it's little. You want to get one underneath. The last one, I just lift this up a little bit and get that last completed circle. The tighter that you overlap them, the more, the nicer the circle of peaches are, actually. Now you could finish this in the middle. I'm just going to show you where we're at right this very second. Okay, this very second, that's where we're at. You could decorate the center easily by continuing with the peaches. I kind of like making the center with a little blueberries. So I use about 1/4 cup, okay? And I basically just put them in the center and I poke them in. They're all gonna kind of cook a little bit, but I just put them in. That way when it's done, it kind of looks like a big sunflower. It's a really pretty presentation, actually. And I just put that in, and no special arrangement. I mean, if you felt like it, you could put some blueberries on the edges, but that's it. Okay, and it goes into the oven right this minute in a 350-degree oven, preheated for about 40 minutes. Okay, so we are going to move on. We're going to save these peaches, and maybe we'll put them with the chocolate mousse. The next dessert that we're going to make is our, we're saving the brownies for last. We're going to make the chocolate mousse. This is not my recipe. It was one of the first recipes that I found with the help of my friend Wendy, who really turned me on to recipes from Dr. Foreman. And it is something that I super love because it's really healthy for us. It's made with frozen cherries, frozen blueberries, and cacao powder, and sweet potatoes, and just a very few dates. So ultimately, it's pretty healthy for us, okay? So we have our Aquafaba here, and I'm just gonna keep it very close by, and I'm gonna move this mixer a little bit. We're gonna bring out the Cuisinart and get this out of the way here, out of here, and I'm gonna get the Cuisinart from, and what, if you for some reason didn't have the a Cuisinart, how else would I make this? I think you could definitely make it in a blender. It just would be harder probably to get out. But let's get the Cuisinart set up here. I'm using what is an S blade, what they call the S blade. And this is so fast, you will be amazed at this dessert. So I have cooked ahead of time. Early this morning, I cooked 2 sweet potatoes, and I peeled one of them and made a cup of sweet potato mash. Okay, I didn't do anything. You could, I cooked it in the oven. You could cook it in your Instant Pot, which is really delicious. You could cook the sweet potato, steam it, which makes it very moist. Actually, I really love a steamed sweet potato. And I just want to show you that the potato that I bought was this big, okay? And this big made exactly 1 cup, exact 1 cup, okay? So let me just get a spatula, which is now here in the sink, just a moment. And we know the cake is in the oven. So we're gonna get the sweet potatoes into the Cuisinart. And this is 1 cup of peeled sweet potatoes, okay? Simple, right? Then we are going to get 3 medjool dates. Now remember earlier I was talking to you about pitting the dates, and they always have a little, this is where they grow, they have a stem, and you always want to get rid of that little top part because it's actually tough and you don't want that. So I'm taking the pits out, and the recipe calls for 3, okay? And we could put another 1 or 2 if your sweet potato is not sweet enough. You can, you know, maybe you need 4. But I noticed the sweet potato was really yummy when I had a little bite, so I'm confident that we need 3. Okay, the next thing we need is a 1/2 cup of cacao powder, and we also need our frozen blueberries and our frozen cherries. So let me get those. So I bought these frozen. I mean, if you feel like having fresh blueberries right now and just freezing those, but you definitely want to have them as cold as possible when you're making this. So in this bag, earlier I measured a 1/2 cup of cherries, and the cherries look like that. They're frozen, and then I got the big fat, you know, blueberries, and that's gonna go in here too, okay? And that I just have in a bag, pre-measured, just to save us time, okay? And then we're going to get this all mixed up, and it won't be on for as long as we will whip it. So just a moment. And so I'm using the pulsing technique, And because there are frozen things in here, it's taking a few seconds. And we are getting this, I like scraping everything down, kind of helping it along, okay? And when I see that most of it's combined, I then add the cacao powder. And let me show you the kind of powder that I like buying. There's a bag of it right here. I like saving this for all of you. So you can see this is the cacao powder that I prefer. And we're using a half a cup, okay? So we're gonna put that over there. And we're basically making the base part of the mousse, okay? Oh, sometimes this happens. I'm going to show you, this is almost done. It needs a little bit of help from me here, but I'm just going to show you what that's looking like, okay? It's almost all smooth, and I can see a few whole berries here, so that's why I know it's not quite done. But we're going to carefully slip this back on, make sure our blade is down. And see how that's looking. And I'm going to taste it actually. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a taste. It's very pasty. I just want to show you that. Okay? I'm going to give it a little bit of taste. Very cold because we have the frozen fruit. It's delicious actually. It's really delicious. I mean, oh my gosh, I could just eat this without anything else. It's like eating, I don't know. The combination is to die for. I remember the first time I made this, I thought it was a miracle that I could have such a healthy dessert. Okay, so that is enough of that. We are gonna eventually have to wash this machine to make our next dessert, but we'll take questions between the time that we're washing. But let's finish this dessert so you kind of understand. Now, we need all of this, okay? But remember I told you often when you have something that's very heavy, you want to start mixing in the whipped part. So we need a cup of this Aquafaba, okay? A cup of it. And we're going to have more than we need actually. And sometimes, just so you know, if I have leftover, I actually put it in the fridge and it actually stays exactly like this. If it deflates and you have it in the refrigerator for a day or two, you could just put the whisk in and whisk it back up. It's a pretty forgivable and is able to stay for a number of days. So we might need more of that, but the recipe only calls for a cup. And this is where I'm going to show you that you want to get this started. Because if you were to try to mix I call it egg whites, but it's not. It's the Aquafaba. You want to just get it started with the chocolate because it's so heavy that if we were to try to mix it in all at once, it would be really hard. And you don't want to over mix anytime you whip something like that. You just don't want to you don't want to deflate it, you know, so that's pretty important. So I've got this here, which is nice. And now I'm going to start adding the rest of this, okay? And this is, again, very thick, very delicious, and makes an incredibly yummy dessert. And you want to get that S blade out. And, oops, that's what you don't want to do. You always want to be careful here, and you want to get all of this off as much as possible. I don't know if anybody has any questions this very minute, because we could take a few questions just while we're doing this and mixing, because I'm open to any questions right this very second.
I've got several questions for you. I'll start going backwards. Will Aquafaba be frozen?
Yes, it can actually. I would freeze it in its liquid state, not in its whipped state.
Great. And does the chocolate mousse dessert kind of work like nice cream, or is the texture different because of the sweet potato?
What does that mean? Does it work like nice cream? I don't quite understand that question. I guess, did someone ask me that question personally?
Can you consider it a nice cream is the question. Do you use it similarly?
I would not consider it a nice cream because it's a mousse. So no, the answer is no. I mean, you could eat it dessert-wise. I mean, it's dessert. I mean, the nice cream is frozen, and this is not frozen. This is just going to be cold, and it's going to be whipped up like a mousse.
Great.
Where the nice cream is nice cream that is really meant to be frozen.
Got it. Can you use a Vitamix for the Aquafaba instead of a mixer?
That's a very good question, and I don't know that answer because you really need a whisk. Now, it's possible that it would happen, but it's possible. That is a good question, and I don't have an answer because I always have whisked egg whites, and I've never had to put them. I wouldn't even think to put them into the Vitamix, but you know, the Vitamix is very strong, and possibly it would do it. Possibly it would.
I could just add, I think sorry, this is Lynn. I think the problem with the Vitamix is you don't get the air into the.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I would ever think about doing, honestly.
It needs to incorporate air to make it fluffy, and you don't get the air in the.
Yeah, the only way to whisk any kind of whisk is to use a whisk, and you're trying to aerate it all. And although the Vitamix aerates from the top, I don't think it's aerating. It's not putting the air in all the way around. Okay, so this basically is done now. And what does it look like? It doesn't look like nice cream at all. It looks like chocolate frosting. Okay, that's really what it looks like. And I'm just gonna show it to you here so you can see. And at this point, you can do anything. You can present this however you like. Okay, there are 100 different ways to be creative with this, and I really encourage you to do that creativity. I have these little Mexican glasses that I like using. I find this dessert to be very rich, so I don't try to get a big bowl and make a gigantic, bowl. I try to just serve it like I would serve it in little wine glasses. This is a wine glass. These are little drinking glasses, little Mexican glasses. And you could do anything. You could put some sliced bananas in the bottom, which would be delicious with the chocolate. I actually sometimes take a few blueberries and put them at the bottom here. You don't have to put them in you don't have to do this. But just as a treat, I like making this dessert a lot for Valentine's Day. and at that time is always often when sometimes you're having the strawberries, and I like people finding something at the bottom, It's like a little mystery. So then I put this chocolate in here, and I'm just kind of pushing it in. Maybe normally you would use a piping bag, but it doesn't really need to have anything fancy because you can get it all in here. This will stay for a couple days. If you wanted to make this ahead of time in the afternoon for a dinner party, you could do that and just cover them with a little saran wrap. And this mousse will hold. It's very strong and very, very, very delicious. And I'm just gonna top it off here. I like putting it to the top actually. And I really like kind of putting it to the top. And I'm just gonna, it is like frosting. Okay, and this particular one is a very big glass, so I probably would not fill that, but maybe I would put a bunch of raspberries on top. Whoops, not that many. And then I like putting the raspberry always in the middle, like that for this. And I like getting a little bit of fresh mint, because mint is such a dessert, goes so nice with the dessert. And giving a little bit of a fresh leaf here like that. And getting the little leaves, I like getting the little leaves out. And putting it just right, oops, like that. And see if we can get another little thing here. I always reach to the middle, I can get that little part in the middle. This has got a lot of berries on it. So you could just put that, and that would be your chocolate mousse, okay? Can you see? And I'm gonna leave that right here, and then we're gonna do one last dessert, and we can, I have to wash the Cuisinart, but we're gonna just put this on the side for now. And we're just going to make the raw brownies. And they're really delicious, but you just need to give me 1 minute to wash the Cuisinart. Are there any additional questions?
Yes, I have a bunch.
Okay.
Does aquafaba need to be chilled before you whip it up?
It doesn't have to. I just suggest that you do. I mean, it's just like if any of you have ever whipped egg whites, you would always chill the bowl and you would have cold eggs. So you don't have to have a chilled bowl and you don't have to have chilled aquafaba, but you definitely want to, but I think it helps it. I just think it helps it speed it along.
Great. And I think you've already mentioned this, Carol, but I'm just confirming that the aquafaba, you get the cooking water from the cooked chickpeas. It's not just from the boxes or cans.
Oh, well, you can, yes, I've confirmed that. I have confirmed that, yes.
Okay, good. And do you whip aquafaba when you make pancakes?
Sometimes yes, is the answer. I mean, anything that you want to give any kind of aerated, anything. I mean, yeah, sure, pancakes would be great.
And can you make pancakes with aquafaba without whisking it?
Yes, I mean, aquafaba, you can read about aquafaba. There are so many things. I use it now as a glaze. A lot, it's really good as a glaze to make things shiny. So if people are used to making an egg wash, maybe in the past, they could definitely use the liquid, and it makes things brown very nicely. And aquafaba it's good for so many things, actually. I mean, it is an egg replacer as well.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of positive. Yeah, it's an amazing product. Do you soak your dates ahead of time?
I soak the dates ahead of time to make the date paste. Absolutely. I mean, the medjool dates are often soft enough to just throw into a blender and with a little water to make the date paste. But the reason I soak them is, one, it breaks them down a little bit. And then the water that I soak the dates in, and I don't use all that water, but I end up with water sugar, like sugar water. And I love using that. It's kind of like it's not a syrup, but it's a sweet water. And I really like using that. So I never throw away that water that you soak the dates in.
Great. But for this recipe, you did not soak the dates, correct?
For this recipe, I did not soak the dates, but do you know what? If you wanted to soak the dates, because you think you have, if you're not using medjool dates and you're using neglet dates, which are much harder, I would definitely soak them. But you don't have to, it just makes it easier.
And a really inventive question from my point of view, but have you ever made popsicles from the chocolate mousse?
Wait, I'm sorry, Wendy, I'm hearing you, but I didn't hear you. Could you repeat it one more time?
Can you make a popsicle?
Oh, a popsicle.
Chocolate mousse.
You maybe could, yes. I mean, I don't see why not, but possible, yes. Probably possible. I don't, it's a good idea. You could try it. It's a good idea. but I don't know. Honestly, I just don't. So we are going to, is there any more questions? So we get on to the last thing?
Go ahead.
Okay, the other thing what I'm gonna do while we're just in the middle, it's always good to check what's going on in the oven, okay? It doesn't mean that you're gonna let all the heat out, but I'm just checking. The cake is definitely cooking. Okay, definitely cooking. We might need an extra 5 minutes. I don't know if it's gonna be done in time, but I hope that it will. So the last thing that we're gonna make, which I would like to say is fantastic, is Chef AJ's, what she calls brownies. And the raw part is because we're not cooking these brownies. Now, I definitely make a delicious brownie on my own in the oven, but I was trying to show you cool and refreshing things during the summer, that so you don't necessarily have to turn on your oven. So maybe in the fall, we'll do real brownies in a pan, but these are raw brownies. And Chef AJ says that if you can't eat walnuts, that you can use any kind of raw nut or seed you would like, but you would have to replace the same amount. So if you need 2 cups of walnuts, then you would do 2 cups of, you could do sesame seeds if you, not sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, or you could do almonds, you could do any kind of nut. And then there are 2 cups of dates. So this is a lot of nuts and a lot of dates. And then we're gonna use a half a cup of the same kind of cacao powder. And then we're gonna use 1 tablespoon of vanilla, okay? And I'm not soaking these dates, and they're going into the Cuisinart. Now the key to this recipe is you don't want to pulverize and process things too much, because you'll end up releasing the oil, a lot of the oil from the dates. I mean, not from the dates, from the nuts actually. So it's pretty important. I usually get, you can put everything in all at once, but I'm just gonna get these going. Just a little bit, just getting them grounded. Now, the first time I made this recipe, I said, oh my God, that's 2 cups of dates. That's a lot of money. And I better make a half a recipe. And you certainly can make a half a recipe. But honestly, these dates, and I'm gonna show you the pan and everything, I keep them in the freezer, and I'm allowed 1 at a time. Because as our colleague Sharon McRae always reminds us, she says, these brownies are like crack. You know, they're delicious and they're addicting, and they're very sweet because we're, you know, using all these medjool dates, okay? But they're delicious, and it's really, it's 3 ingredients, and how much easier can you go? Can it be than using that? I'm gonna pour the 1 tablespoon of vanilla, which is a lot of vanilla, actually. And I'm gonna pour that in here. It's a lot of vanilla. Okay, and that is gonna go here. And then I'm gonna, and I have the half a cup, okay? That is pretty much that dessert. AG likes keeping it simple for people, which I like. And we're gonna pulse this, and we're gonna get it so it's just combined, okay? Once a ball starts forming, okay? Whoops, this does happen on this side. Because it's taking a lot of power to get this. Let me just move this over here for a minute. It's easier and better. And I tell you, you want to be really very careful that you've gotten all the pits out, okay? Because if you hear that really sharp noise, it means you've left it hidden. I always take this off, and I'm not going to show it to you quite yet, because it's not ready. Sometimes the net actually has to fill. I'm going to just feel this box. I'm going to use the spatula here to get it. It's getting pretty sticky. Still needs just a very few seconds more, okay? 'Cause, 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 coming together. Okay, you can see that it's starting, and I'm immediately seeing that it's starting to get shiny. I don't think that you can see that actually from here, but you definitely you see how it's come together, okay? That is done. You don't want to mix it any more than that, okay? And then we just get this unplugged and put it away. And then there are several ways that you can have these brownies. You can get an 8x8 pan and press them into a regular square pan, and then you could cut them. You can also, if you don't want to deal with the pan, you can just take a ball, okay, and just roll them, okay? And you could eat that. That is edible. And if I were to serve this, actually, I would probably roll this in coconuts, like coconut flakes, or I would roll, you don't want to roll it in more nuts because there's nuts in there, but I would certainly be tempted at Christmas time to roll them in pistachios so that they're green. There's a really good, Trader Joe's makes these dehydrated raspberries that you could grind up, and then you could roll them in the dried raspberries, and so that they would be pink on the outside. So this is definitely one way of serving them. But I have one of these silicone pans here with little squares. I'm just showing you, they're not deep, okay? They're about a half an inch deep by 1 by 1 by a half an inch, okay? And I just literally, this recipe, I just start pushing them in there like that, okay? And I keep this whole tray in the freezer. And I only take one out a day that I eat. Like I said earlier, I ration them out to myself. I don't get too carried away with eating several of them because they are very sweet, but they are very, very delicious. And what's great about these in the summertime is because you have them in the freezer, is that you can pop them out, put them on a plate, okay, and then serve them. And they're very beautiful. You could put some fruit. I would probably put them on a plate and surround them with lots of fruit. And then people have a little bit of chocolate and they have a lot of fruit, which I think is a better way of serving a dessert, actually. But this, we're just gonna get all this in here. I'm gonna show you. I can take questions while I'm doing this. We'll be finishing in about 5 minutes. I'm hoping the dessert in the oven is done. We started a few minutes late, but I definitely can take questions if there are any more.
There are. What kind of vanilla do you use, and can you use vanilla powder instead of liquid vanilla?
Well, I just recently looked at vanilla powder, and vanilla powder is like, first of all vanilla, I always use the pure. I don't use any imitation, okay? I don't use any imitation at all, and it's all very expensive. And I try to, buy the organic brand. I try to buy the organic brand. And I guess you could use powder, sure, why not? If you have it, use it, it's good.
Excellent. And this is not from one of our recipes today, but there was a question in the past about the kind of lemon citrus juicer machine you used, which I think is Chefin. Is that correct?
It is, and I love that. And I love that someone asked that because I love this tool so much. It's this, and it's called a Chefin. Literally, Chefin.
Great.
And it comes, it actually, they try to sell you, honestly, they make one that's orange, they make one that's 4 oranges, they make one for limes, and they make one for lemons. And honestly, I mean, the cup size is probably just varies in size a little bit, but the fact is just buy one and use it for everything. I mean, I try to get an orange in that one, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't.
Excellent. Carole, do you have any of the nutritional information on the recipes? And I'll just say as an aside, if you go to Dr. Furman's site, he will likely have the nutritional information for the mousse, but
Yes.
I don't know if the other things, if you have any nutritional.
I don't have any, I have not broken it down, is the answer. No, is the answer.
Okay.
But I can tell you that, you know, we're not using anything processed and we're using whole foods. And like any dessert, right, you want to have some, but not a lot, you know? I always say George Washington didn't eat cake every day, right? He ate it only on his birthday. So dessert is always, even if these are healthy desserts, you want to, you know, eat a little bit, not a lot.
Excellent. We know that George Washington probably had cherries, unfrozen cherries.
Maybe so. But I just want to show you right now that I got all that batter, all those brownies. So the point is, I mentioned earlier, the first time I made this recipe, I only made half, and it was just, they're going to go into the freezer anyway, so why not just make them all, and they can sit in there for literally, I'm not kidding you, months. Months. And what I do, this is my own personal technique. Chef AJ didn't ever tell me about this, but it's kind of what I do. I actually put some saran wrap and I get them all flat. And you certainly could use a rolling pin to do that, but I get them so that they're all in here like that. And then I put this whole thing, I literally put this whole thing into the freezer, okay? Now we're not gonna have them frozen, but I really serve them frozen. And in the summertime, like I said, it's really delicious. So that is how I would serve them. But because we don't have that time to freeze things, I can just show you that you would pop one out. Okay, I'm gonna put it on the plate. Let me get rid of these things. And get this thing here. And I would just show you that you can just pop them out. This is the beautiful thing about the silicone. Okay, and let's get this chocolate here, get this on. We have the chocolate mousse. We have a lot of chocolate. We did a lot of chocolate things today, actually. And I had a good, I don't like the counter dirty. I'm a very clean cook. You know, if you're gonna make 3 things in a row, you're just gonna wanna clean up in the between time, because that's just natural. And then these are the brownies. Again, imagine them that they're frozen, okay? And you could serve them with oatmeal cookies if you had, or whatever kind of dessert. But, you know, I put them on a plate like this. You could have a little bit of fruit on the side. Let's see, I would probably just, you can, I had a leftover peach, so you could serve that. We didn't use all the raspberries, but we could put some raspberries on the plate. Again, I encourage people, I think if you were here in the middle of the summer when I made watermelon skewers, you could, you know, serve those with this, which would be delicious. And of course, because we're in the stone fruit time and the berries are still happening. So these are this would be, I'm gonna just take all this away. Again, the rest of this, oh, and I do wanna show you, it's not that we're not gonna have cake, but the cake is just taking a little longer than I imagined. So let me get rid of this, just one moment. We're gonna leave this right here, just a second. We're gonna put this here, and we're going to move this here, and this is gonna stay right here. I don't mind if that stays here. And I wanna show you one technique that's very important with the cake, but let's look at the cake. I actually think it has just like 10 more minutes and we're gonna have to go, but I wanna just show you the cake, okay? And I'll show you the technique that is important to see. And other than that, you really don't need to, it's almost done. It has like 5 minutes and we're really done. We're right on time being done. I wanna show you that I make a glaze. I have this, it says thick apricot. It's this brand here. Okay, and it is just apricot spread, okay? And it's made with, I think, cider juice, or it has no processed sugar, and I actually really like it.
Carol, can you read the brand?
I can. It's Saint, S-T, Dalfour, D-A-L-F-O-U-R, and I'm just gonna hold it up for you and show you.
Got it.
Okay. And this is what I do. This is my little secret. You often make a glaze, and the way people make things shiny, you know, the fruit all shiny. Sometimes I would even toss the berries in some of this so that they're all shiny. We'll just put that here so that you can see. At this point, I take a brush, which I have here. Now, this is really soft. This is really malleable because there's no whole apricots in here, okay? If it was some reason you could thin it a little bit. I'm just gonna show you with a squeeze of lemon juice, just a little bit. And if it's really hard, you could put it on the stove, but I don't bother. And our dessert is still here, and I'm just gonna paint. I'm just gonna paint these peaches so that they are, and I'm doing it very lightly because you don't want the peaches to move around. The berries are already, I don't want them moving, and I don't want this cake out of the oven. If I were doing this and you weren't here, I would be glazing this while it's still sitting in the oven, okay? Because I've just lowered the temperature of the cake, which is not so ideal. But I just want to show you right now that this is the last 5 minutes of this cake, and it is going into the oven. And how do I know when the cake is done? One, it's brown. The blueberries are usually bubbling. Sometimes the peaches their edges have gotten a little bit brown. And then I just take the cake out and I let it cool for at least 15 or 20 minutes. You can serve this cake hot, but you definitely want it to be cool, okay? And that's it. That is it for our desserts. We made 3 things, which is amazing in the amount of time we had. My next class is Sunday, September 13th at 5 o'clock. I have no idea exactly what we're going to be making then. Likely something with eggplant and corn because it's going to be September, and I really like showing you as well as the way that I eat. I try to eat as locally and in season as possible. You can follow me on my Instagram page, which is The Veggie Vanguard, and I can also be reached at Carole, C-A-R-O-L-E, at The Veggie Vanguard. That is my email. And any other questions can also be you can write to Plant Powered Metro New York. And I want to thank all of you who has ever been coming and been dedicated since we brought all these webinars to all of you. And I thank anybody that's new, and I hope you continue to follow us. And I love having you in my kitchen, and thank you so very much.
Carol, is thevegievanguard.com live now?
The Veggie Vanguard, my email is live, but the website is not live yet. It's still being built.
You know about when it will be live is a question?
Oh, my website, the landing page, if you go to thevegievanguard.com, the landing page is there, and you can actually see all the upcoming classes. There's a number of classes that I'll be on Chef AJ's show, and we have Plant Powered Metro. I'll be posting, our coming classes there as well, and the website is getting finished.
Awesome. So thank you. You're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat. So thank you very much. 3 desserts in an hour. Wow. Any point you're ready to take out the cake, I'm sure it'll be on the can.
Oh, it will be done in a very few minutes. The thing is, even if the cake were done, and again, it's really beautiful. I just want to show you that it's really beautiful. It really needs just 5 minutes more.
Great.
And then I absolutely let it cool. Like, I don't even think of opening that spring for at least 10 to 15 minutes. And then I run a butter knife around the edge. It comes away from the edge perfectly. You open that spring and the ring comes off. and you have the cake sitting on a plate ready to serve.
Beautiful. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Really a joy seeing some of the people who've come back and then new people who are joining us. I'm just going to repeat that Carole's next cooking class for Plant Powered Metro New York will be on September 13th at 5 o'clock. And Plant Powered Metro New York also adds things. We've got a few things for the rest of August, but we'll return a little bit more populated with classes in September. Let me just check. Yeah, so please check the calendar on our website. Feel free to join our meetup groups to find events. And if you aren't already on our mailing list, please join the mailing list, ppmny.org. And I think that's in the chat. Let me just see. Sign up for our website, join us on Facebook and Instagram. We really are very eager to keep the community together and welcome new members to the community. So please feel free, of course, to spread any of this, and you can find the recordings on our YouTube channel, which is also ppmny.org. So let me just see if there's anything else in the chat. People are looking forward to your return, Carole. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.